My mother handed me a suitcase on the morning of my 18th birthday and told me I had 10 minutes to be off her porch. The suitcase was not mine. It was the cheap floral one she had used for a cruise to Florida 6 years earlier, the one with the broken zipper she had been meaning to throw away. She had packed it the night before, while I was sleeping in the bedroom I had paid the electric bill for since I was 15. Inside it were 3 pairs of jeans, 4 shirts, my high school diploma, a plastic bag of socks, and a sandwich she had wrapped in a paper towel. The sandwich was peanut butter, no jelly. We were out of jelly. My mother had not bothered to go to the store. My father stood behind her in the hallway. He had a coffee cup in his hand. He did not look at me. My sister Tessa was on the couch in the living room, in a pink robe I had bought her for Christmas the year before, scrolling through her phone like the morning was already too long for her. "Sabine," my mother said, "we need that money in your account. Today, by the end of the day. You give us your savings, you can stay. You don't, you go. Those are your choices. And you're a legal adult now, so I do not want to hear another word about it." I had $11,400 in that account. I had been saving it since I was 13, from babysitting and dog walking, and 3 years of working the register at a gas station after school. It was the money I was going to use for community college. It was the only thing in my life that was actually mine. "That money is for school," I said. "That money is for your sister's wedding," my mother said. "She is getting married in 8 months, and we are not going to let her have a cheap wedding because her older sister is selfish." I looked past her at Tessa on the couch. Tessa did not look up from her phone. "Mom," I said, "it's my birthday." "And you are 18 now," my mother said. "Which means you are an adult, and adults make adult decisions. So make one, right now." My name is Sabine Kowalski. I am 28 years old. 10 years ago, on the morning of my 18th birthday, my mother put me on the front porch of the house I had grown up in, with 1 suitcase, $47 in cash, and a peanut butter sandwich. My father did not say a word. My sister did not get up off the couch. My mother said, and I want you to hear this in her voice, because I still hear it in mine. She said, "Good luck on the street, sweetheart. Don't come crawling back." 3 weeks ago, my parents and my sister saw my house on the local news. They have been calling me every day since. I am going to tell you exactly what I built in the 10 years between that porch and that television screen, and I'm going to tell you what I said to my family when they finally showed up at my front door asking for help. Before I do, I want to ask you something. Hit the subscribe button, and tell me in the comments the meanest thing a member of your own family has ever said to you. Not the worst thing they ever did. Just the meanest sentence they ever let come out of their mouth. I read every comment, and sometimes the comments are the only place people have ever been able to write those sentences down. Now let me take you back to the porch. I stood there with that suitcase for 4 minutes before I picked it up. I know it was 4 minutes because I watched the clock through the front window. The clock had been a wedding present to my parents. I had grown up watching that clock. It was the only thing I missed when I left. I walked to the end of the driveway. I turned around. I expected my mother to be in the doorway. She was not. She had already gone back inside. The door was closed. The porch was empty. 18 years of my life, and the closing scene was a closed door and a clock I could no longer see. I walked to the bus stop 2 blocks away. I sat down on the bench. I opened the suitcase. I counted the cash in my wallet. $47 and some change. I had been planning to deposit my paycheck that afternoon. I had $63 more coming on Friday. I had no idea where I was going to sleep that night. This is the part of the story where most people expect me to tell you that I cried. I did not cry. Crying requires you to feel safe enough to fall apart, and I did not feel safe. What I felt, sitting on that bench, was a kind of bright clarity I had never felt in my life before. My family had just shown me, in a single morning, exactly who they were. I had spent 18 years trying to earn my place in that house, trying to be small enough and helpful enough and quiet enough to be loved, and the entire time, the price of staying had been giving them whatever they asked for, the moment they asked for it. The $11,000 was not the first thing they had taken from me. It was just the first thing I had refused to give. A bus came. I did not get on it. I did not know where to go. Another bus came. I did not get on that one either. Around noon, a man came and sat down on the other end of the bench. He was older. He was holding a paper bag. He looked at me, and he looked at the suitcase, and he looked at me again. "You eat today?" he said. "No," I said. I had forgotten about the peanut butter sandwich. He opened his paper bag. Inside, it was a sandwich and an apple and a small carton of orange juice. He pulled out the apple. He held it out to me. "My wife packs me too much," he said. "She always thinks I'm gonna starve. I never finish it. You take the apple. I'm not gonna eat it." I took the apple. He sat with me for a while. He did not ask me what was wrong. He did not ask me where my parents were. He just sat. After a while, he said, "I work over at Boateng's Auto on 6th Street. You ever need a job? You come find me. We always need somebody who can answer a phone." His name was Reginald Boateng. He was 64 years old. He had moved to America from Ghana when he was 30. He had built his auto shop with his own hands. He owned a small house and a smaller garage behind it, and he was the first adult who had ever looked at me on a public bench and noticed I was a person. I did not work at his auto shop. I could not answer a phone for a living. I had bigger plans than that. But 6 months later, when I needed somewhere I could afford to keep a piece of equipment I had bought, I knocked on Mr. Boateng's door, and I asked him if he would rent me his garage for $50 a month. He said yes. I am getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. That first night, after the bus stop, I went to a friend's house. Her name was Joelle. We had been on the same shift at the gas station for 2 years. I had told her once, at the register at 3 in the morning, that I had been saving my paycheck for college. She had remembered. When I called her from a payphone outside a diner, she did not ask me what had happened. She told me her address and said the door would be unlocked. I stayed on Joelle's couch for 2 weeks. Her mother let me. Her mother said one thing to me on the second night. She said, "Sabine, this couch is yours as long as you need it. But I want you to know that the longer you stay, the harder it gets to leave. So we are going to make a plan together. I love my daughter. I am not going to let her best friend become my problem child. You understand?" I told her I understood. I think about that woman a lot now. She did me one of the great kindnesses of my life by telling me, plainly and without cruelty, that I had to keep moving. Most people who help other people forget that part. They want to be the savior. They forget that the saved person needs to learn how to save themselves, and the longer the savior keeps saving them, the longer that lesson takes to land. Within 2 weeks, I had a job at a diner 3 blocks from Joelle's apartment. Within 3 weeks, I had a room in a boarding house run by a woman named Mrs. Iverson, who charged me $90 a week and let me eat the leftovers from her kitchen for free. Within 2 months, I had a second job, doing the early shift at a bakery, starting at 4 in the morning. I worked 64 hours a week. I slept 5 hours a night. I did not go to community college. There was no time, and there was no money. I ate whatever the diner did not sell at the end of the day, and whatever the bakery did not sell at the end of the morning. Here is what I learned, in those first 6 months, about food. I learned that the diner's roast beef sandwich, which they sold for $9, cost $1.40 to make. I learned that the bakery's morning pastries, which they sold for $4, cost about 30 cents to make. I learned that what people pay for, when they buy food, is not really the food. They are paying for somebody's time. They are paying for somebody to stand in a kitchen and turn ingredients into something that feels like care. I started keeping a notebook. In it, I wrote down every recipe I learned, every cost I tracked, every customer behavior I noticed. Which menu items sold most on Tuesdays? Which sold most on Saturdays? What people ordered when they were hungover? What they ordered when they were trying to impress somebody? What they ordered when they were sad? I kept that notebook for 2.5 years. When I was almost 21 years old, I bought a used food cart for $1,900. The seller was a man going through a divorce who needed to liquidate fast. He sold it to me for less than half what it was worth, because I came with cash and I asked no questions. I had saved the money working at the diner and the bakery, and I had not spent a single dollar on anything I did not need. I needed somewhere to keep the cart. I could not keep it at Mrs. Iverson's. I remembered the man on the bench, 3 years earlier, who had told me about his garage. I went to find him. Mr. Boateng was still at the auto shop. He remembered me immediately. I told him I had a food cart. I told him I needed a garage to keep it in. I asked him if he would rent me his. He looked at me for a long time. Then he said, "You came to find me, after 3 years." Yes. Most people, you give them an apple, you never see them again. I am not most people. He laughed. It was a deep laugh, the kind that came from his whole chest. He said, $50 a month. You can keep the cart in the garage. You want power? You run an extension cord from the house. You want to wash anything? There is a hose around back. You break anything? you fix it. You make any noise that bothers my wife, I throw you out. We have a deal? Yes. Sabine, you have a plan? Yes. Tell me. I told him. I had been thinking about it for 2.5 years. I told him I was going to start by selling pierogi and kielbasa from the cart on weekends, near the breweries downtown, where the lines for food were always too long and the existing options were always boring. I told him my grandmother had taught me to make pierogi when I was 7. I told him I knew exactly which fillings would sell to people who had been drinking. I told him I had calculated my cost per plate. I told him I needed to make 11 plates an hour to break even and 20 plates an hour to make rent, and that I was confident I could move 40 plates an hour on a Saturday night if I picked the right corner. Mr. Boateng listened. He did not interrupt. When I finished, he said, "You worked that out by yourself?" "Yes." "Sabine, where are your parents in this story?" "They are not in this story." He nodded slowly. "Okay, they are not in this story, but I am going to tell you something. Every young person needs an old person who knows what they are doing. You don't have one. So now you have me. You bring me your numbers every month. I look at them. I tell you what is wrong. You don't have to listen, but you have to bring them. That is the deal. Yes?" "Yes." For 5 years, I brought Mr. Boateng my numbers every month. He did not charge me for the time. He did not charge me extra for the garage. He sat at his kitchen table with my spreadsheets and his glasses on the end of his nose, and he asked me hard questions about margins and waste and supplier costs. He told me when I was being too cautious. He told me when I was being too greedy. The first year, I made enough to live. The second year, I bought a second cart and hired a kid from the neighborhood to run it. The third year, I traded both carts in for an actual food truck. The fourth year, I bought a second food truck. By the fifth year, I had 3 trucks operating in 3 different parts of the city, and a small commissary kitchen I rented in a strip mall, and I was clearing more in a month than my parents had ever made in a year. I never told them. I had not spoken to them since the morning of my 18th birthday. I did not change my phone number. I wanted them to be able to reach me, just in case. They never did. Not on my 19th birthday. Not on my 20th. Not on my 21st, 22nd, 23rd. Not at Christmas. Not on Mother's Day. Not at all. I stopped waiting around year 4. In year 6, I bought a small house. It was a fixer-upper. It had a yard. It had a kitchen big enough that I could test recipes at home. The first night I spent in that house, I sat on the floor of the empty living room with a paper plate of pierogi I had made on my own stove, and I cried for the first time since the bus stop, 8 years earlier. I cried for a long time. I cried for the 18-year-old girl on the bench. I cried for the 20-year-old who had slept 5 hours a night for 2.5 years. I cried for the version of me that had spent 18 years trying to earn the love of people who had never been planning to give it. And I cried because the house was mine. The whole house. Every wall. Every window. Every floorboard. And nobody was ever going to come into it and tell me to give them my money. Mr. Boateng came to dinner at that house every Sunday for the next 2 years. He brought his wife. Her name was Adelaide. She made jollof rice. I made pierogi. Our 2 cuisines did not match at all, and we did not care. We ate together. Mrs. Boateng called me daughter, the way some women call young women they care about. And the first time she did it, I had to leave the room because I did not know what to do with the word. 3 weeks ago, the local news did a feature on a community kitchen I had quietly been running for 3 years. I had started it in year 7, after a bad winter. There was a homeless shelter on the east side of the city that served 300 meals a night, and the food they were getting was the kind of food that fills you without nourishing you. I had walked into the shelter one afternoon with a tray of pierogi I had made at home, and I had asked the director if I could donate some food. He had said yes. The next week, I had come back. I had kept coming back. After a year, I was making 150 dinners a week for the shelter, on my own dime, in my own kitchen. After 2 years, I had hired a part-time cook to help me. After 3 years, the shelter director called me and told me a local journalist wanted to write a piece about it. I almost said no. I do not like cameras. I do not like attention. I had not built my life on attention. But the shelter director said the piece would help with their fundraising, and so I said yes. The journalist came to my house. She filmed me cooking. She filmed me bringing the food to the shelter. She filmed Mr. Boateng coming over for Sunday dinner, which they edited into a small, charming moment near the end. She asked me about my background. I told her, in the piece, that I had built my food truck business from nothing, starting at 19, with a used cart and a garage I rented for $50 a month. I did not mention my family. The piece aired on a Tuesday evening on the local news. My mother called me at 9:15 that night. I was in my kitchen, washing dishes. The number on my phone was a number I had not seen in 10 years. I let it go to voicemail. She left a message. I listened to it the next morning. Her voice was different. The hardness I remembered was gone. She sounded older. She sounded tired. She said, "Sabine, we saw the news. We just want to talk. Please call us back. It has been so long. We just want to talk to our daughter." She called 4 more times that day. My father called once. My sister did not call. By the end of the week, my mother had called 22 times, my father had called 6 times, and my sister had finally called once. I had not picked up any of them. Then, on a Saturday morning, my doorbell rang. I opened the door. My mother was standing on the porch. My father was behind her, the way he had been 10 years ago. My sister was sitting in their car in the driveway, in the passenger seat, looking out the window the way she had looked at her phone the morning I had left. Even from the porch, I could see that something had happened to her. She was thin in the wrong way. Her skin was bad. Her eyes were the eyes of somebody who had been losing for a long time. My mother looked at me and her face crumpled. She said, "Sabine, my baby girl." I looked at her. I looked at my father. I looked at my sister in the car. "Mom," I said, "what do you want?" "Sabine, please, can we come in? Can we sit down? Can we just have a conversation? We have missed you so much." "Mom, what do you want?" She started crying. My father shifted his weight on the porch the way he had 10 years ago, when he had not looked at me. My sister did not get out of the car. "Tessa is sick," my mother said. "She has been struggling. We tried to help her. We are not in a position to help her anymore." "Sabine, please. Your father lost his job 2 years ago. We lost the house. We are renting. We have nothing. We saw what you have done with yourself, and we are so proud. We are so proud. We just need a little help. For your sister. Just a little help to get her into a program. She needs it, Sabine. She is your sister." I stood in my doorway. The kitchen behind me smelled like the bread I had been baking. The house I had bought with money my parents had once tried to take from me was warm and full and quiet behind my back. The woman who had handed me a suitcase 10 years earlier was crying on my porch and asking me for money to save the daughter she had thrown me out for. I want to tell you what I felt in that moment. I felt no triumph. I felt no satisfaction. I felt no urge to slam the door, even though I had imagined slamming it 1,000 times over the years. What I felt was something I had not expected. I felt sad. I felt the kind of sad that has no shape. The kind of sad that comes when you realize the people who were supposed to love you the most spent 28 years failing at it, and they are still failing at it, even now, on your porch, asking you to fix the failure for them. "Tessa," I called past my mother, "get out of the car. Come up here." Tessa got out of the car slowly. She walked up the porch steps slowly. She would not look at me until she was right in front of me. And then she did, and her eyes filled with tears, and she said, "Sabine, I am so sorry." It was the first apology I had ever received from any member of my family. "Tessa," I said, "are you ready to go to a program?" "Yes." "Today?" "Yes, right now. I can't keep doing this. I will go anywhere you tell me." I looked at my mother. I looked at my father. They were watching me with an expression I had seen before. I had seen it on the faces of customers who had tried to short me money on a food truck order and then realized I had counted it and were watching me to see if I was going to make a scene. They were waiting to see what kind of person I was going to be. "Tessa," I said, "I am going to take you to a treatment program right now, today. I will pay for it. I will pay for as long as you stay. The day you leave the program against medical advice, the money stops. You understand?" "Yes," she said. "Mom, Dad," I said, "you are not coming. I am taking my sister myself. You are going to drive home. You are going to wait. You are not going to call me. When my sister is ready to talk to you, she will reach out. Until then, I do not want to hear from either of you." My mother said, "Sabine, we are her parents." "You are my parents," I said. "And you put me on a porch on my 18th birthday with $47 and a peanut butter sandwich because I would not give you my college fund for her wedding. Do you remember that, Mom? Do you remember telling me good luck on the streets?" "I do. I remember it every day. So do not stand on my porch right now and tell me you are her parents. Like that word means something coming out of your mouth. You are paying for what you did 10 years ago. Today, in real time, the bill came due. My father, who had not spoken in 10 years, finally spoke. He said, "Sabine, we were wrong. We know we were wrong." "I know you were wrong, Dad. I have known that for a decade. I am not arguing with you about it. I just don't have anything to give you. I have something to give Tessa, because she came up the porch steps and looked me in the eye and said she was sorry. You haven't said it. And even if you said it now, I do not believe you mean it. You are saying it because you are scared. That is not the same thing." My mother was crying. My father was looking at the porch boards. Neither of them moved. "Go home," I said. "I will text you the name of the facility once Tessa is admitted. That is the most you are getting from me. Possibly ever." I took my sister inside. I closed the door on my parents. I drove Tessa to a residential treatment center I had researched after seeing her in the car. I paid for the first 90 days that afternoon. I sat with her in the intake office while she filled out the paperwork. Before she went in for her assessment, she hugged me, and she whispered, "I am so sorry, Sabine. I should have gotten off that couch. I should have said something. I have thought about it every day." "I know," I said. "I believe you. We are going to figure out who we are to each other later. Right now you have one job. You stay in this place. You do the work. You get well. That is the only thing I want from you." Tessa is on day 47 of her program right now. She calls me twice a week. I have not let my parents know any details about her treatment. They have stopped calling me. Mostly. My mother sent me an email last week. It was 3 pages long. It was not an apology. It was a list of all the things she wanted me to understand about her own childhood, and her own marriage, and her own struggles, and the reasons she had been the kind of mother she had been. I read it once. I did not respond. Mr. Boateng came to dinner the Sunday after my parents showed up. I told him what had happened. He listened the way he had always listened, with his glasses on the end of his nose and his head tilted slightly to the side. When I finished, he said, "Sabine, you did the hard right thing. The easy wrong thing was to slam the door. The easy other wrong thing was to give them everything. You did the third thing, which is the harder thing. You took care of the person who could be taken care of, and you sent the rest of them home. That is wisdom. That is not just business. That is wisdom." I cried at his kitchen table. He held my hand. "I want you to understand something, because I think it matters. The hardest thing about being thrown out of a family is not the moment they throw you out. The hardest thing is the years that come after, when you keep waiting for them to call. You keep your phone number. You stay at the same email address. You wait for the apology. You wait for the realization. You wait for somebody to figure out that they were wrong, and to come find you, and to say it. For most of those years, nobody calls. And while you are waiting, you have to also build a life. You have to also work, and pay rent, and feed yourself, and figure out who you are without the people who were supposed to teach you. You have to become a whole person while a part of you is still standing on a porch on a morning 10 years ago, waiting for the door behind you to open back up. The door does not open, not on its own. And here is the secret nobody tells you. The day you stop waiting for the door to open is the day your real life starts, not the day they apologize. Not the day they show up, the day you stop waiting. I stopped waiting somewhere in year 4. I do not remember the exact day. I just remember that one morning I woke up and realized I had not thought about my parents in 2 weeks, and the realization did not make me sad. The realization made me feel like I had finally moved into my own life. Like I had taken the key out of the door of the house where I had grown up and put it on a desk somewhere and walked away from the desk, and the desk was now 100 miles behind me, and I was not going back for it. That is the lesson, if you came to this story for one. Some families are not lost when they throw you out. They are revealed. The door they slam behind you is the most honest thing they will ever do for you. They are telling you, in a single moment, exactly what you have been worth to them all along. Believe them. Do not spend 10 years trying to talk them out of it. They knew what they were doing when they did it. They had thought about it. They had packed your suitcase the night before. They are not going to wake up one day and discover they made a mistake. The only person who can leave that porch is you. And when you leave it, do not leave to come back. Leave to build. Leave to become so much more than the small role they wrote for you that one day, if they ever do come knocking, you will answer the door as a stranger, not as their daughter, not as their son, Not as the disappointment, or the difficult one, or the one who made things complicated. As a stranger. As somebody who has built a house they were never invited into, and who gets to decide, on their own porch now, who walks across it. I want to ask you one thing before you go. Tell me, in the comments, the name of the person who taught you the first real survival skill of your life, not the person who raised you. The person who, when life got hard, showed you how to keep going. For me, it was a man named Reginald Boateng who handed me an apple at a bus stop when I was 18 years old and rented me a garage for $50 a month when I was 20 and sat at his kitchen table with my spreadsheets for 5 years for free. Tell me yours. Some of us never had family who were on our team, but almost all of us had somebody. Tell me their name. Let's say it out loud, in this space, where the people who didn't show up for us cannot hear it. I will be reading every comment. I will see you in the next one.